May 11th, 2012, 3:45 in the morning. A quiet street in Allington, Derby. The sky was black. The air was still. And then, a scream. A blaze. Chaos. As fire tore through the Philpott family home, neighbors awoke to a nightmare they couldn't comprehend. 6 children, trapped inside. Smoke poured from the windows, the sound of glass shattering, the stench of burning dreams. The fire was fast, too fast. By the time firefighters arrived, it was already too late for 5 of the children. A 6th would die just days later in the hospital. 6 innocent lives gone in just a few minutes. But as the flames died down, the questions ignited. Before the fire, before the headlines, Mick Philpott was already known to the British public. Not as a grieving father, but as something else entirely. A man who lived off the state and bragged about it. In 2006, he made national news. He'd fathered 17 children by multiple women, lived in a council house, claimed over £50,000 a year in benefits. He didn't hide it. He flaunted it. "I'm not ashamed," he said. "The system's there. I just use it better than you." But behind the TV appearances was a man who demanded control over everything, over everyone, especially the women in his life. Long before he met Marriott, Mick had already shown what he was capable of. In the 1970s, he served in the army, dishonorably discharged. And then, something darker emerged. At just 21 years old, he was convicted of attempted murder. His teenage girlfriend had tried to leave him. He stabbed her 13 times in the street, in front of witnesses. He served 3 years, just 3. And when he got out, he didn't change. He got better at hiding. Mireille Duffy was only 19. Mick was nearly 40. He told her what to wear, when to speak, when to eat, when to sleep, when to have his children. She obeyed. The Philpott house wasn't just crowded. It was a pressure cooker, ready to explode. Mick lived with Mireille, his wife, and Lisa Willis, his mistress. Both women, both under his control, both mothers to his children. He made them share a bed, said it was the arrangement. Others called it what it was, abuse. The kids, they grew up in that chaos. Neighbors called social services, but nothing ever changed. Mick was charming when he needed to be. In 2007, he went on the Jeremy Kyle show, thought he'd get sympathy. Instead, he got humiliated. "You don't need a bigger house, Mick," the host said. "You need to take responsibility." The crowd laughed. Mick didn't. To him, it was all about power, control, being seen. But in early 2012, Lisa left, took her 5 children. Mick's kingdom was collapsing. And then came the plan. Twisted, calculated, evil. He would start a fire, blame it on Lisa, pretend to rescue the children, play the hero. He thought he'd win her back, regain custody, keep the benefits. But nothing went the way he imagined. The fire didn't just destroy the house, it destroyed 6 innocent lives and exposed the monster behind the mask.
May 11th, 2012, 3:45 a.m. Victory Road, Allington, Derby, England. 6 children asleep in their beds, dreaming, safe, innocent. And downstairs, a plan was unfolding. Petrol poured across the floor, soaked into the carpet under the stairs. A single match, a whisper of flame, and suddenly the house was on fire. Mick Philpott thought he had it all worked out. Light the fire, blame Lisa, save the children, be the hero. But fire doesn't follow instructions, and it doesn't play along. The blaze exploded upward. The stairway, their only escape, became a wall of flame. Thick black smoke filled every room, every hallway, every breath. Mick and Mairead screamed from the garden, but they didn't go inside, not once. The children were still trapped upstairs. Firefighters arrived within minutes, smashed through windows, kicked in doors, crawled through the smoke. And then they found the children. 5 of them, unconscious, lying in their beds, not burned, just overcome. CPR began on the lawn, sirens wailed, a city held its breath. 5 were pronounced dead. Duane, the eldest, died 3 days later in hospital. At first, police believed the Philpotts. An arson attack, a custody dispute gone violent, Lisa Willis, the jealous ex. But something wasn't right. The front door had been locked from the outside. No signs of forced entry, no broken windows. Whoever lit that fire had a key. Days later, Mick and Mairead held a press conference. Cameras flashed. Mick sobbed into a tissue. Mairead wept beside him. Please, someone out there knows who did this. It was a performance, a carefully rehearsed act, but detectives were already suspicious. They placed hidden microphones in the police van, inside their hotel, and what they heard chilled them to the bone. Laughter, jokes, Mick mocking the police, practicing his fake tears, complaining about the hotel service. This wasn't grief, this was a game. Then came the forensics. Traces of petrol on Mick's socks, on Mairead's clothes, and on a friend, Paul Mosley. The fire hadn't been an accident, it had been a plan. To frame Lisa, to get custody, and to keep control. But instead, it ended in horror. May 28th. Police made their move. Mick and Mairead Philpott were arrested, charged with 6 counts of manslaughter, along with Paul Mosley. They didn't mean to kill, prosecutors said. just to scare, just to stage a rescue. But the fire took everything. From his cell, Mick wrote letters, complained, blamed Lisa, blamed the police, blamed everyone, except himself. He never once asked about his children.
February 2013. Nottingham Crown Court. The eyes of a nation locked on one room. Inside, 3 people. Mick Philpott, married Philpott, Paul Mosley. Charged with 6 counts of manslaughter. 6 lives. 6 children. And they were about to face justice. The prosecution made one thing clear. This wasn't murder in the traditional sense. It was manslaughter. Because they believed the fire wasn't meant to kill, just to scare, just to stage a rescue, to win sympathy, to punish Lisa. But the fire didn't go to plan, and 6 children paid the price. Mick Philpott wasn't just a father. He was a manipulator, a narcissist, a man obsessed with control. 2 women, 11 children, 1 roof, all under his command. When Lisa Willis left him, he lost more than a partner. He lost control. That is what lit the match. Forensics didn't lie. Petrol under the stairs, soaked into the carpet, a fire trap. Traces of fuel on Mick's socks, on Mairead's clothes, on Paul Mosley's shoes. The children never had a chance. Mairead's lawyers said she was abused, controlled, a puppet in Mick's show. But the court saw more. She knew, she stayed, she helped. And after the fire, she didn't cry, she didn't run. She slept with Mosley hours after burying her children. The jury was disgusted. Paul Mosley claimed he was clueless, just helping a friend. But petrol on your shoes isn't an accident. Silence is complicity. Mick tried to play the grieving father, but in court, the mask cracked. Interrupting, mocking, smirking. He blew kisses to the gallery and practiced crying when no one was looking. This wasn't grief. This was theater. April 2nd, 2013. After 8 weeks of testimony and just 5 hours of jury deliberation, the verdict: guilty. All 3. Mick, Mairead, Mosley. 6 lives, stolen, for power, for image, for revenge. Mick Philpott, life in prison, minimum term 15 years. Mairead and Mosley, 17 years each, but likely to serve just half. The public was outraged, the nation disgusted. Since then, Mick has faded into the prison system, occasionally writing letters, complaining about meals, blaming everyone except himself. Mairead, released in 2020, living under a new identity. Mosley walked out shortly after. But this story is not about them. It's about 6 children: Duane, Jade, John, Jack, Jesse, Jaden. All gone. Their names now etched in silence. They never had a voice. So now we tell their story. A house on Victory Road turned into a grave. A family turned into a crime scene. And a nation left with a single question: why?